Hello there, this is A.D. Robles. You're back on the channel. It is February 7th, year of our Lord 2025. And there's just so much good going on, man. There's so much good going on. I don't know if you are on X, but there's a few different things that are going on that I absolutely love. One is that Mark Driscoll, for the last week or so, has been completely dunking all over Christianity Today. You know, the Christianity Today, of course, the regime version of Christianity has a magazine, and it's Christianity Today. And a lot of money has been exposed from the federal government going to Christianity Today, and Mark Driscoll's loving it. He's just having the time of his life, and I'm here to support it for sure. Another thing I like is James Lindsay, and Mike O'Fallon, and that whole crew. They're having little meltdowns left and right. It's just so great. Wonderful. Absolutely. Highly recommend you checking it out. One more, though, that I really do like is a lot of people are noticing that there's a little blackpilling going on. You know, there's a little bit of blackpilling going on in some of our circles. And John Harris, I think, posted the other day, the only reason you can blackpill, but if you're doing it, you want to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, there's no reason to blackpill that's legitimate. I mean, you could be upset about certain things, but when you're starting to blackpill, it's so over, all that kind of nonsense. That's just because you want to do it. You know what I mean? There's always a million reasons that you could have to complain. But the thing is, you just have to choose not to. You just don't take the bait. That's real bait out there. Reasons to be discontent, reasons to be, unhappy or to freak out or consider the worst case scenarios. There's always reasons available to you. There's black pill pushers on every corner. You just don't take it. All right. Yes, don't take the black pill. It's definitely not good for you. It's not good for anybody, really. But, yeah, there you go. You can just not do it. See, you know how you can just do things? You can just do things, right? We talked about that yesterday. It's obviously I proved it. And the thing is, you could also just not do things, too. That's another thing you need to realize. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize this, that you could also just not do things. Right? I mean, all of us have these temptations in our lives, and some of them are more insidious than others, right? Some of them are more serious than others. But here's the thing. Have you ever tried just not doing it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go have a few more, maybe I'll go out to the bar and get loaded, People have the temptation to do that kind of thing. And here's what I say. I mean, have you considered not doing that? I don't know. I mean, maybe just don't do it. You could just not do things as well. Like, you can do things if you want to, and then you could also just not do things if you want to. And if you do the thing that you don't want to do, I mean, do you really not want to do it? I don't know. I mean, listen, more words of wisdom like this are coming next week on the A.D. Robles YouTube channel. What I wanted to talk about today, though, was this post here from Danny Morgan. I don't know Danny Morgan. I shouldn't do the voice for Danny Morgan. I don't know him. But the post is really has earned the voice, that kind of thing. But apparently, Danny Morgan, let's check him out here. Let's check him out. He is the associate pastor of Redeemer Presbyterian in Austin. And he says he's growing in grace. I mean, you can't argue. I mean, hey, I don't mind the look. I mean, the look looks pretty good. He seems like he'd be the right guy. But unfortunately, his post here is just very, very standard, classic, just a perfect example of the standard way that people that want to introduce error into the church or even just full-blown liberals. I don't know that Danny's a full-blown liberal, but this is a liberal strategy. This is a strategy that libs use all the time, and you got to watch out for it because there's a lot going on here, and I want to just unpack it. You know what I mean? I want to speak in the language that maybe even Danny can understand. I'll sit with me for a moment while we unpack everything that's going on here. And then maybe afterwards we can do life together. Who knows? But this is about the controversy that's come out recently because someone actually did a little bit of a study. They did some internet sleuthing, and they found out that there's just like tons of Presbyterian churches. Now, PCA Presbyterian churches. PCA churches that have female deacons right? There's tons of them. There's everywhere, female deacons left and right. And the problem with that, if you don't know, because, not everyone in this channel is Presbyterian, right? Problem with that is that female deacons are not allowed, according to Scripture, which, of course, is the most important, but also according to the Presbyterian, Book of Order, or what is it called? What's it called? Man, I'm not, listen, I believe in the Westminster Confession. Like, I think the Westminster Confession's right about what it says. But I don't go to a Presbyterian church, so I'm not, well-versed in all that kind of stuff. But it's not allowed. If you're in the PCA, it's not allowed, right? Not something you're supposed to be doing. But a lot of people do it, apparently. And so someone revealed just how extensive the problem is of having female deacons and all that kind of thing. And so people have been arguing about it, just kick them out, right? Because that's what you should do. Get them out of there. Look, it's against the Bible. It's against the way we've chosen to operate. So if you don't want to operate that way, get out. Makes sense. I mean, you could just do things. That's the thing. You can just do things. People are starting to realize that. And so Danny here, of course, he's very unhappy with this. And this is what he says. And I want you to listen to this because this is standard. This is a play. This is a tactic that libs use all the time. Again, I don't know if Danny's a lib, but he's using the lib tactic. He's not wearing the lib uniform necessarily because he's got that killer mustache. I mean, that's not really the lib uniform. But he's got the lib tactics down pat. Here's what he says. Danny says, a thought about the issue of deaconesses, rather than engage in poor discourse online, would we, one, go to the Scriptures and make biblical cases for our position, and two, engage thoughtfully with opposing views by refuting the very best arguments against our own view and representing only the very best of the opposite. Keller and Ligon Duncan landed on opposite ends of this debate, and seemed to not only be civil with one another, but showed affection for one another. Would we learn from their godly example? Here's a short starting list of reading on both ends. Now, he goes in, he lists, I don't know, let's call it 20 books or 20 writings on the issue. And so this is a short starting list for reading on the issue on both ends, and he gives you 20 freaking books, right? And here's the tactics. And this is what's going on here. This is why this is effective, actually, by the way. Because it sounds so reasonable, right? It sounds very reasonable. I mean, who wouldn't want to really sincerely and earnestly think about it, right? Like you need to spend some time thinking about it, lest you do the wrong thing, right? So, of course, he's telling you, hey, let's think about this for a minute. And in my opinion, thinking about things oftentimes is the right first step. You think about it. You don't just necessarily act, right? You gotta think through your actions sometimes. Now I do have a bias towards action because what I've noticed in myself, and this is just for myself, this is a personal flaw that I have, right? I do that thing that people call paralysis by analysis. I do that thing. That's something that I naturally want to do. I just want to analyze things, and I'm, before you know it, 8 hours has passed, and now we're going to the next day, and I haven't even done anything, right? That's something that I suffer from. So I intentionally try to bias towards action, and I say, I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to do it, right? I'm just going to do it, and then we'll talk about it later, right? But in general, I think this is good advice. Think it through, right? Think it through. Let's study it. Maybe we'll have a few freaking committees. Maybe that's what we need to do, have a study committee. We'll study this, and then we can talk about it in a nice way, right? Because, after all, Tim Keller and Ligon Duncan did. Right? Tim Keller and Ligon Duncan, they talked, they respected each other. They loved each other. They showed affection for one another. So on the surface, this seems so reasonable, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to do this? But here's the rub, right? Because this is a tactic. This is a strategy. The strategy is this. You study it, but in the meantime, female deacons for everybody who wants them. In the meantime, you allow the practice to go forward. In the meantime, you're studying it, but in the meantime, you just let them do what they want to do. They want to have female deacons? Let them have female deacons. That's what you should do. And it's very, very tricky. This is tricky. Because what you're doing is you're pretending. This is pretension all the way around, right? You're pretending to be reasonable and trying to seek some kind of consensus. And by the way, we're collaborating here. Look, both sides need to, he's not saying just one side needs to read. He's saying both sides need to earnestly read and think about it and then debate it in a respectful way. Debate it and honestly. But one side's getting their way in the meantime. This is a tactic. So this guy's banking on the fact that the more time that passes, the more time that these female deacons are doing their deaconing, whatever they're doing, right? And it's just gonna keep going. I mean, the more time that passes, the harder it is to actually take it away. The more people get used to it, the more people are living and breathing in that kind of that aura, right? And so it just well, this is what we've done, right? This is a tactic to get you to delay action. This is a tactic. I'll never forget this. My co-elder when I was pastoring, we were debating something, and I don't even remember anymore exactly what it was, but it was something that I wanted to do from a ministry perspective. I don't remember exactly what it was. I wanted to do it, and he didn't want to do it, right? I wanted to do it, and he didn't want to do it. And so what he said was, well, we're not in agreement, so let's talk about it, let's think about it, let's study it, and in the meantime, we're not doing it. And I remember looking at him like he was insane. I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. Let me get this one straight, Mr. Co-elder. So we're going to compromise by doing what you want to do. That's the thing. We're going to compromise by doing what you want to do. That doesn't make any sense. Don't you see how that is, I don't know, it's sneaky? Because you're trying to sound reasonable. You're trying to sound like you want to think it through. And it wasn't something super controversial either. It really wasn't. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah, we'll think it through forever, and in the meantime, you get your way. No. If anything, it should default to what's obviously in the Presbyterian documents and in the scripture. Obviously, the people that are looking to add something extra, they're the ones that should be on hold while we figure it out, right? If we're going to have these study committees, if we're going to work it out and all this kind of stuff, you should be on hold, not me. Obviously. But there's some things though, guys, and this is the other thing that we need to really we just need to somehow make this part of our mode of operation, right? There are some things that we're not going to ban somebody from studying it, but as an organization, as an institution, we're just not going to study it. The answer is freaking just no. Right? Here's the thing. Like if somebody comes into the PCA and they, make a motion or whatever they do the what are they called? I forget what they're called. Whatever. It's not like the SBC. My mind is in Baptist land, right? And they say, we got to study. Here's what we got to study. We got to study if the gays can be pastors. The gays can be pastors. You know what I mean? And they put the same kind of thought behind it. Well, why wouldn't you want to study it? We got to study. We got to understand what God says. We got to respect it. All this kind of stuff. The answer to that question is no. We're not even going to have a study committee. The answer is no. Go be gay somewhere else if that's what you want to do. This is the thing. Like we've got to figure out how to get the wherewithal within ourselves to look at the guy that's trying to manipulate us, that's trying to figure out a way to sound so reasonable, but be pushing forward evil and confusion and chaos. We know that listen, the Bible describes men like this. The scripture describes men like this. Their words are smooth as butter, but there is war in their hearts. Guys, we know when this is happening. You know when this is happening. You've got the BS detector. You've got that gut feeling where this guy is coming to you with language that sounds oh so good and oh so reasonable. but you know what they're trying to do. They're not going to admit it to you, but they're telling you with every piece of their action what they are trying to do. And you've got to shut that down. And you've got to shut it down with complete prejudice. You've got to shut it down so it never comes back again. You can just do things. You can also just not do things. And one thing you should not do is allow these endless study committees bringing nonsense into the church, all while the practice is accepted while you study it. Because the longer you do that, the longer it'll go. It'll just never end. Well, you could just keep studying it forever. You could study literally forever. You could argue and debate literally forever, but there's a time for action. And sometimes that time for action is before that conversation even gets started. Before it even gets started. Now, sometimes there's some issues, though, that you should debate first before you take action. But this is not one of them. Take action. Get the cancer out of your churches. I mean, some of these guys are getting so bold that they've got shepherdess ministries. And I'm talking conservative guys, people that would be on the conservative side of this debate. They've got shepherdess ministries. They think they're being cute. I'm pretty sure. Listen. I'm willing to take it on the chin here. I'm pretty sure it's Kevin DeYoung's church. Pretty sure. And if it's not, I'll take it on the chin. I'll eat my crow. That's fine. They think they're being cute. Oh, yeah, we don't have female pastors, but we've got this. They're not ordained. They're not ordained, though. But they're shepherdesses. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? It's unbelievable. So you got to watch out for this stuff. I mean, this is the tactic, man. This is what the liberals do. They have these smooth, reasonable-sounding words that, I mean, who could disagree with study? Who could disagree with it? But you just have to steel your spine. You just have to find your balls is what you need to do. Because men can think, but men have to act. They have to act. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. There's a time for action. And that action, by the way, the action that you take with stuff like this, you just kick them out. Say, look, you give them an ultimatum. You say, the deaconess program, it's over. It's over. Or you leave. Just like that. When you do that, they're going to say it's mean-spirited. They're going to say it's poor form. When you call for it online, they're going to say, oh, it's just poor, it's non-gracious argumentation and stuff like that. They are always going to say that. They are always going to say that, no matter how gracious you are about it. Any calls for action, any moves towards action is always going to be seen as mean. It's always going to be seen as poor form. It's always going to be seen as lacking grace. Always. They will always say it. You just have to steel your spine and say, that's okay. I'm sorry you feel that. You don't even have to say sorry, but you could just take the position of, I know you feel that way. I understand what you're saying. You think I lack grace. I get it. I'm willing to own that. Get out of here with that nonsense. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. In any case, that's what I had to say today. By the way, this kind of strategy happens not just in the church, but it does happen regularly in the church. It happens regularly in the church. But this is a very classic lib strategy. You know, they get their little, they worm their way in, and then they have a small ask. It's just, let's study it. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. And then they'll bring their sob stories out of all the women who feel seen because of the women deaconesses. They don't feel comfortable going to the men to ask for this. Oh, the sob stories. They always come with the sob stories and all that kind of stuff. The same with the gay issue. You know, oh, my church, you know, they persecuted me for being gay, and I didn't want to live anymore. And then they come with the sob stories. And look, I find those sob stories unfortunate. I get sad too when someone comes and they don't feel comfortable here. They don't do that. They're upset with themselves and things like that. But there's an easy answer for some of this stuff. Have you tried maybe not being gay? I mean, have you tried maybe getting over it and asking for help, even if you're not comfortable asking the male pastor or the male deacon or whatever it is? Have you tried that? You gotta steel yourself, man. You gotta steel yourself. Look, the sob stories, they are very unfortunate. I'm not saying you don't have sympathy for them, but the sob story, you can't let the sob stories rob you of your sense. You can't let the sob stories let you bend the truth or be flexible with what ought to be done. You can't. They will use that tactic every time because it works. That's why they do this kind of stuff, because it works. Danny Morgan will probably get his way. People, I gotta read these 20 books. And then, by the way, guess what? When you read the 20 books, here's 20 more. Here's 20 more books that you could read. This is just, remember, I said this was a short starting list. It's a short starting list, so clearly we got to get to the real list. The real list is probably 100 books long. That's my advice for you today. Don't forget, guys, you can just do things. You can also just not do things, too, that you don't want to do. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. Simple as that. Really, it's just that simple. In any case, hope you found this video helpful. God bless. Puro fuego es mi amor por